So the four early games on Sunday in the Premier League, 2 goalless draws and 2 3-0 away wins. Our focus is on one of the goalless draws. We'll speak about Everton against Chelsea coming up, but we're going to start, where else, but at Old Trafford. And look, this might have been a shock back in 1984, Harry Redknapp's lower league Bournemouth side playing Man United in the FA Cup, but no, let's fast forward now. Not to this year, not to the game we've just seen, but to 12 months ago, 9th of December 2023. Bournemouth won 3-0 at Old Trafford. Let's fast forward to today. Bournemouth have won 3-0 at Old Trafford again against Manchester United. And that scoreline does not flatter them. Mark Donaldson alongside Luis Miguel, Echegaray. It was a miserable day for Manchester United. It's just like they've got a brand new bus driver, but the bus is still all over the place. And for Bournemouth, is it really a surprise that the team in 6th have won so comfortably at the team in 13th, LME?
No, not at all. As you beautifully introduced this match, let's be honest here. And I'm echoing the words of Sir Jim Ratcliffe here. Not myself, not a fan, but Manchester United are an ordinary team. They are. They're just no longer what we expected from years ago. And we have gone over this over and over again. And the real story here is Bournemouth. Andoni Iraola's Bournemouth, who are a tremendous setup. They are everything that Manchester United want to be right now. They are a collective unit. They defended well. There was a moment towards the end of that game where Amad Diallo looked like he had space going towards the box. And Bournemouth just completely even in stoppage time, even when they were 3-0 up. And that's the demand that I'm sure Ruben Amorim wants. But it is no surprise to anyone at this moment that Manchester United continue to struggle, even with, as you mentioned, a new bus driver. So it's going to get worse before it gets better for the Red Devils, if indeed it does so. But the real story for me here, MD, is that Bournemouth continue to rise.
Is the real story this season that there's been a bit too much disrespect for Nottingham Forest, for Bournemouth and for others, yet we still look in Man United, Bournemouth and think, oh, that's a home win because it's Man United and it's Bournemouth. It's lowly Bournemouth. It's not lowly Bournemouth anymore. They started the game ahead of Manchester United in the table. They end the game 5th in the table, and Manchester United will be in the lower half of the Premier League on Christmas Day for the first time since 1989. These so-called smaller sides, which isn't fair in the first place, seem to deserve a lot more credit than they're getting because all the focus, including us at ESPN FC, is on Man United's problems, whoever the chaotic team at the time is. Do we forget to give your Bournemouths and your Nottingham Forest the credit that they deserve?
Yeah, absolutely. I am so glad you brought this up because it's true. Look, I think, and I've been actually saying this a little bit even at the beginning of the season, and I think it's really evident right now, right, that this Big Six talk has to kind of stop because the competitive nature of the Premier League, the quality of squads within your Bournemouth, your Nottingham Forest, even Fulham under Marco Silva as well, even though they couldn't get that win today. The rise of Aston Villa, et cetera, is now really showing that the competitive nature of this league is demanding other teams, other lower teams to really be more competitive. Nottingham Forest are an absolute unit. We don't know where they're going to end up under Nuno Espirito Santo at the end of the season, but so far we are seeing a tremendous rise. And Bournemouth today, once again, have shown how collected they are in this season. So yes, I think it's time to really understand that due to the competitive nature of the Premier League, the owners, new owners are getting more invested, specifically with Bournemouth as well, invested in the quality, the management. Just the quality of management within these clubs is so much better than it's ever been. Hence the fact that other clubs, other big clubs like United and even City at this point are struggling because now you're seeing a lot of teams that were not necessarily the conventional wisdom of a top team in the Premier League rising up. So fair play to them, specifically this game as they beat, once again, to your point, Manchester United.
Okay. How did Bournemouth replicate what they did just over a year ago and win by 3-0 today?
Andoni Iraola's system is one that at the very beginning, definitely in the first 20, 25 minutes, they want to intoxicate you. They want to just, punch you in the face when you think you have a plan. They're not really a reactive team. They just want to identify themselves when they have the ball and push you. But I think that what Iraola has learned this season specifically, because that was more of an ideal thing last time around, but this season, I think what Iraola is understanding is that, okay, we know that we can be aggressive going forward with the likes of Semenyo, Kluivert, etc., right? But let's now actually be more compact when we don't have the ball. Let's have more of a connection between midfield and attack. So whenever we lose that ball, we're collectively together. And that's what you're seeing. I mean, you've got teenagers playing for them at the back, and they're still delivering because I think collectively they're really together when they don't have the ball. By the way, special shout out to Kepa Arrizabalaga, who has gone through so much in his career and on the clean sheet today. And, you know, he's really now taking more confidence in who he is as a goalkeeper. It wasn't so long ago that he was one of the best goalkeepers in Europe in terms of his age. And now he's really settled. And Iraola, again, I think today has shown that we don't just have to be good with the ball, but we also can be patient when we don't have it, because they didn't score that first goal after an hour, right? They were still trying to be defensively strong. And I think that's the key difference between what you're seeing from Bournemouth this season as opposed to last season. And of course, the squad is deeper and stronger, et cetera, et cetera. So fantastic stuff.
Kepa wasn't anything to do with the price tag that was on his head when he moved to Chelsea to become one of the most expensive goalkeepers in the world. Nothing to do with him. Just like Harry Maguire had no say in the fact that he had to be 80 million to get him for Manchester United. So sometimes we forget that, and it becomes harder for the players because Kepa's not a goalkeeper that's worth all this money. Harry Maguire's not a defender that's worth all this money. Yeah, fine, but it's not them that paid the money. It's the clubs that bought them. To the opening goal. How many times do Manchester United have to concede from set plays before suddenly they think, that's how you defend?
I think they enjoy it at this point. I think they're just going to be like, I think they're saying, let's concede from a set piece and then we'll take it from there. It's kind of ridiculous. And it's a bit nerve-wracking as well from a Ruben Amorim standpoint, right? Because, you know, we are hearing so much about the fact that he is a manager that is all about, you know, practice doesn't make perfect, perfect practice makes perfect. He wants to encourage this kind of like demand in training as well. So what are they doing in training that's still not learning the point that you have to be strong when you're defending corners or set pieces or any kind of dead ball situation? And they continue to allow this to happen. It's very worrying. It's now this trend that exists within their identity. So the answer to your question is, I don't know. I think they enjoy conceding, but once again, they do it. And the thing is that loss against Tottenham, even though they heroically came back to try and fight it, still showed obviously so many defensive issues from set pieces and also when they don't have the ball. It's a major problem. That's why I said at the beginning of this, MD, like it's going to get worse than it gets better for them because there's a lot to figure out here for United and Ruben Amorim.
They're just not learning. I mean, the delivery in from Christie's is decent enough. It's in an area. I mean, it should be defended. Whether the goalkeeper should maybe start to come for these, that's maybe hard for this one. Or the look, as far as the goalkeeper is concerned, his defenders should do a job. If it is where it is, Howson's a big lad. He scored before this season, not too long ago, and he scores again. And
it was a good header, but still,
it was a great header. And there's nothing Onana can do about that. He's flat-footed, and it's a looping header, just glanced looping header into the back of the net. It's a perfect goal for Bournemouth. So Man United are trying to get back into the game. They're trying to get back on level terms, and they're not really doing it. I mean, there was a couple of early changes in the second half. Xerxes going off, Højlund coming on. They also brought on Garnacho, but they didn't really have as much of an impact as Ruben Amorim was hoping. And then 2 goals in a kind of 2-3 minute spell. A penalty from Justin Kluivert, and then Semenyo, again, targeting that left-hand side as Bournemouth come forward. Manchester United's right. They've identified a weakness and they've gone for it. And they end up with 2 goals, put the game out of sight to make it 2-0, then 3-0. But once again, for Manchester United, it's goals that could be avoided or certainly prevented easier than they are being.
Yeah, and I wonder if Marcus Rashford is sitting somewhere thinking, well, you know, I'm trying to learn, and at least I can give you goals even at my worst. It's interesting to see. There's many issues right now for Ruben Amorim that he has to fix. The thing that I noticed today was when United, even when they were in control and going forward, they were really out of ideas. There's no clinical understanding, and that's completely contrary to the likes of what we're seeing with Bournemouth or Forest or any other team. Chelsea, for example, I know they didn't win today, but there's a disconnect with Manchester United attackers right now. I mean, Alejandro Garnacho, I think he's limited a lot of the time in terms of what he's trying to do going forward. It's not good enough. Is it the system? Does Amorim need to be less stubborn here? Does he need to play with a flat four? Does he need to maybe link up to strike? I don't know what the answer is. All I know is that there's a massive disconnect, lack of creativity, because even in that win against Manchester City, they weren't showing enough during the course of 90 minutes. It was a great win, but it wasn't enough creatively. So that's going to be a worrying sign as the games continue in short amount of space of time in December and as we kick off in 2025.